The first recorded mention of pancakes dates back to ancient Greece and comes from a poet who described warm pancakes in one of his writings.
You're watching the Bear Pantry Show.
I have the recipe for Japanese pancakes in my cookbook, The Pantry Laid Bare, but I didn't put the recipe for regular pancakes in any of my books. Why? Because I didn't have a great recipe for the breakfast bread. I finally found a recipe that is very simple, and the pancakes are fluffy and soft. I started off by melting my butter in the microwave for about 15 seconds, and now these are the rest of the ingredients that we're going to need. Let's start off with all-purpose flour, 1.5 cups. And then we're going to need baking powder, and I will put the ingredients in the description below, okay? Next, I'm going to add sugar, only 1 tablespoon. Not a whole lot of sugar for 1.5 cups of flour. And then egg. Now this recipe only calls for 1 egg, and later on in the video I will half this recipe, and I'll still use 1 egg, okay? I'm not going to use half an egg. This is the melted butter. It's had a little bit of time to cool down too before I threw it in behind the egg. And then milk. You can use, regular high-fat milk, but I'm using lactose-free milk. And I'm adding the milk a little bit at a time. And if you notice, I didn't add any salt, but you can add a pinch of salt if you want to. I didn't add any salt because a lot of these ingredients have salt built in. Egg whites have a lot of natural salt built in. So that's why you don't see me add salt too much when I'm doing these type of things. So that's all the milk. And I did this recipe a while back when I made this beautiful charcuterie board. And I did mini pancakes because I wanted to stack them on the board, but I totally forgot. So on the counter, you're seeing the biscuits that I made to go on the charcuterie board. So I'm just doing 2 tablespoons, and I put 4 in the skillet. But I realized it was too much because I have trouble flipping them. And then they also did not come out round because the parts where it was on the edge of the skillet got kind of warped. So I'm like, nah, next time, next batch, I'm just going to do 1. 1 little pancake in the middle of this big skillet, guys. So we just want to wait until the bubbles start to form. And that's when we know we have to flip them. Alright, so you see how to make mini pancakes from the full batter. So I got like 20-something pancakes. Now let's move on to halving the recipe. So I have my butter. I melted it. Now let's start with the flour, just 3/4 cup this time instead of 1.5 cups. And then the baking powder, and it's 1 3/4 teaspoons of baking powder. And I want to show you how I measure that. 1, half, and then 1/4. Yes, I know fractions. Now let me add my sugar. And like I told you earlier, I'm going to use the 1 egg. I'm not going to use no half an egg. Let me whisk this first though. Add my butter in. Mix it around so it has time to cool down before I add this 1 egg. Now this is the batch that I make all the time for us here at the house because it will yield 6 6-inch pancakes, and that's all we need. We don't need to have the leftovers. I'd rather have the pancakes fresh every time I want it than to have it like put up and then try to reheat it and stuff like that. So I'm showing you can use any of these skillets. This is my double, what do you call this? Double burner. I'm just going to brush a little bit of butter in here. And then I just kind of eyeballed the first batch. I got a huge one. So I'm like, no, I can't be eyeballing this. I got to measure. I was just checking it to see how it's coming. It has a lot of holes in it already, but it wasn't ready to be flipped, okay? Alright, so let's flip this guy right here. Still kind of light in color on that part, but I'd rather it be that way than be burnt. So that one is done, and then we're going to start measuring. I'm using a 1/2 cup right here to measure, but I only want to pour out 1/4 cup. See, it's coming, guys. It's hard for me to do these type of breakfast breads as a video because we're eating them as we make them. And so sometimes I don't have a whole stack to show you in the after picture, you know? See how pretty this one is? Then we're going to do another one. Okay. It's Joshua saying hi to Wednesday the dog behind me. And I'm just patiently waiting for the bubbles to start forming. Look, see? You know, I have a pancake thingy to put in the middle of the stove, but it's never really worked. I don't think the fire comes on hot enough in that middle section, even when the stove was brand new. And that thing is just stupid. If I buy a stove in the future, I don't need to have all of that. Well, not if I buy a stove in the future. I'm probably going to have to buy a stove sooner than later because my oven is broken. And even though we have the part, Joe didn't change it yet. This is the second or third time we're fixing the oven on this stove, guys. I don't know if I just got a dud or if it's because I use it so much to do the show and then to do our everyday cooking. And then we've had parties in the past where I've had to cook. I remember one time I had to cook 5 or 6 turkeys back to back. And I remember on the last turkey, the stove just shut down. It says, I'm not going to cook no more. Man, I panicked, but I shut it off for like a half hour and then it started to work again and I was able to finish up that turkey. See, I have 4 here and 1 in the thing. That's only 5. We should have gotten 6. All right, so measure the 1/4 cup of batter and you'll get 6. Ooh, that one was kind of hard to flip, guys. Now I have a stack and I'm just going to cut the top layer to get a piece out to show you how fluffy it is. I have some syrup. I didn't used to like syrup when I first tasted it. I had to learn to like syrup. I still don't really like it too much. I'd rather eat this with peanut butter. Showing you how I'm putting it away from the ants. I have to have airtight everything to fight those ants. And just in case you guys don't know what I'm talking about, go watch my video prior where I'm showing you that I got bit by ants and I had an allergic reaction. If you do the full recipe that calls for 1.5 cups of flour versus 3/4 cup of flour, you're going to get about a dozen 6-inch pancakes like this. So a 1/4 cup of the batter will give you that much. When I did the full recipe the first time, I did mini pancakes, so I scooped out 2 tablespoons and I got about 20 something pancakes. When I did the half recipe in this video, which calls for 3/4 cup of flour, I only got 5 pancakes, but that's because the last one was huge. If you do the 1/4 cup measurement, you're going to get 6 pancakes. So it's quite a bit, right? Now, what's my history with pancakes? We didn't get pancakes in Belize. I remember that they used to make waffles because they had the old school waffle iron that you put in the open flame, fried jack flour tortilla, bread. We got all that type of stuff, but we did not get no pancakes. I tasted pancakes the first time here in America in the early 1980s. I didn't like it. I didn't like the texture. I didn't like the taste because it was too salty, because I tasted it at a restaurant and I think they use that packaged thing, right, with a lot of salt in it. And I didn't like the syrup. To me, the syrup smelled like transmission fluid. I'm really weird with my taste and my smell. And to tell you the truth, it's still not my favorite breakfast thing. And I don't understand why Americans put a stock, right, and then pour the syrup and cut right through, or put, worse, they put butter. They put butter on the top of it to make it, oh, I don't know why that doesn't go for me. You guys, I don't want to not convince you to not make pancakes, because this recipe is really, really great. It's tasty, it's fluffy, it's not too sweet, it's definitely not salty. And if you like pancakes, you're gonna love this one. This is the Beth Pantry Show. Jada says I need to clarify what I was saying. When I'm talking about not liking butter on the pancake, is when you see like a stack of pancake, they have that square of butter and they pour syrup on top. That doesn't go together for me.